Welcome back. We're live from the Greenhouse Mall. This is the Town Hall session of the Monday Report. And of course, today our discussion is all about jobs or the lack of them thereof. Now, to get exact statistics on unemployment in Kenya, it's been a bit of an issue because different sources have different statistics. A UN report said 39.1% of Kenyans are unemployed. Meanwhile, Kenya National Bureau of Statistics says 7.4% of Kenyan youth are unemployed. What are the exact numbers? It doesn't matter. What the big issue is, unemployment is a big issue in this country. And my panel, together with the audience here, will help us to take a look at that right now. Let me introduce my panel to you. I'll start from my far left, where we have Professor Humphrey Obora. He is the CEO of the World Talent Federation. Welcome to the program, Professor.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Right next to him, we have Ronnie Osumba, the chair of the Youth Enterprise Development Fund. Ronnie, karibu sana.
Asante.
We also have the Director General of the National Employment Authority, Edith Okoki. Karibu sana, Madam DG. And last but not least, the Senator of Nairobi County, Sakaja Johnson. Welcome to the program as well. I wanted to begin by reading a quick tweet here by a gentleman known as Peter Ogada, who says that the government is bragging of creating 800,000 jobs a year. Where are these jobs? The politicians don't build roads and create jobs in rallies. We are tired of being called future leaders. Future leaders without jobs aren't leaders. That's where I want to start this discussion. Senator, let me start with you. 3 years ago, your bill passed into law, but there are those who say that despite the intentions of your bill, it's not being felt on the ground. Where is the gap between policy and actual results on the ground, Senator?
Very quickly, thank you for this discussion. And the format, the town hall format is really good. When I look around this crowd, I see, I'm assuming around 42 young people, some younger than me, some older than me, who carry a lot of dreams and hopes. And not just theirs, but of their parents, their villages, where they're from, you know. And there's no more important discussion that we can be having more than this one about creating employment and what it needs to be done. So in 2015, after 2 years of a lot of work, I came up with the National Employment Authority bill, whose work was not necessarily to create jobs, but to streamline access into the job market.
Or to streamline access into the job market.
Streamline access into the job market and to make sure that young people are aware of those opportunities and are prepared for those opportunities. The problem with me having, number one, is in terms of training. We don't have a matching between the skills we are teaching these young people and what the market requires. So in that board, we have the employers, we have the educational institutions sitting down, looking at the data collected across the country, knowing that, look, 90% of those unemployed have been studying these courses. Should we continue teaching these courses? Are we just postponing the unemployment of these young people? Or are we producing the skills that are required in the market? Number two, those institutions, and I've seen a colleague who I was with in the university, even in the institution, you do not know how to get an internship, an attachment. If I show you the number of SMSs and letters and papers in my office of those just looking for internship, it's incredible, you know. This institution, the authority, is supposed to actually connect young people in institutions of higher learning.
It's supposed to.
It's supposed
Meaning,
to. That's what it provides for.
Has it yet?
The DG will tell us. My work is to legislate, and I've legislated because that was my work as a member of parliament, and I'm putting in law, such that if you look at the number of parastatals we have, the ministries we have, government institutions, just looking at government, we have more than 300. If each of them just took 100 young people every 6 months, we're talking about 300,000 young people every 6 months going to work, getting a small stipend, understanding the workplace, professional ethics, building their confidence, giving themselves dignity. Number three, it was then supposed to equalize access, so that for this lady or the young gentleman in front of me to get a job, it doesn't depend on who he knows.
Okay.
But whether in Mandera or Nairobi or Turkana, as soon as your details are captured at a Huduma center near you, then you get into a national database where the private sector and the public sector can actually draw from. So there's a pool of jobs. It was supposed then to incentivize the private sector through tax rebates for those who employ young people with less than 6 months experience.
So they would receive benefits.
They would receive tax relief. If I give you a tax relief of 100,000, you can employ another how many people?
Okay.
You know? So there's a lot that it's supposed to do. I
get the feeling it had a lot of nobleness behind it.
Yes.
But the implementation, which is what I wanted to bring in the DG on that as well. You can respond to what he said, but in addition, during your launch 2 weeks ago, the CS, who was the guest of honor at the function, made a very bold promise that within the next 1 year, 1 million Kenyans will get access to jobs, not locally, but overseas. How do you plan to actualize that, even as you respond to what the senator here had to say?
Thank you.
there's a very elaborate labor migration management, and government has been working to create that sector by bringing in legislation and also streamlining that sector. You'll realize that initially we had very many so-called briefcase agents who were taking people, especially in the Middle East, where Kenyans, majority of Kenyans are concentrated. But right now, we have reverted most of these agencies. And as I speak, we have about 120
that have registered with
the National Employment Authority.
So most of the 1 million jobs will come from where? The Middle East?
And all over. We are actually trying to negotiate bilateral agreements with countries where we can source employment for Kenyans. Because whichever way you look at it, Kenyans will still move out to look for employment. This is a global world. So what we are asking, what we want to do, and this is best practice in most of the countries, is that you negotiate for terms, better terms and conditions of work for your people. Then through these agencies that we have registered, then they can source for this employment.
Okay.
So government will assist through sourcing, looking for those markets. How
will you safeguard those workers? We've had some horrible stories.
Yes, and some of them we cannot verify. Some of these stories cannot be verified. But what we have put in place is that these agencies who go to look for these jobs, they have security bonds that they deposit with us of 1.5 million. In the event that there's a Kenyan who is distressed, that has been taken by an employment agency, then it's very easy to bring them back. There's
very easy to bring them back. I'll come back to you to get more details. Let me bring in Ronnie. Your mandate is completely different. Not employment, helping youth create jobs. But there's been a school of thought, and it's one that's growing, that those who are telling the youth to create jobs are those who are employed, who have sat on jobs, who've refused to let them go, and are telling every young person out there, go create your own job. Do you encounter this way of thinking, and how difficult has it made for the Youth Fund to carry out its work?
Thank you for having us, Wahiga. First and foremost, let me just take cognizance of the young people who are seated here with us, because these are the guys who are driving the Kenyan economy. In their own small ways, in their own small hustles, they're actually making this economy move. And therefore, I just say, you know...
But they're a frustrated lot.
But they are a frustrated lot, and we must take cognizance of that fact. Because, you know, you rightfully said, the numbers are there to speak for themselves. Every year, from the education system, which Sakaja was talking about quite earlier, we're producing 1 million guys into the job market. 1 million. You know, whether they are dropouts, whether they've done technical training, no education, 1 million every year without fail. Right? We're only able to produce 50,000 formal jobs. The rest of the 700,000 jobs are actually informal jobs. And therefore, the government takes this position that why don't we get a cohort of young people who can go into entrepreneurship? So people who have a passion to create, to build, to innovate. Why don't we invest in these young people so that by spurring that growth in the entrepreneurial space, one person can create jobs for 3 or 4 other people.
Okay.
So this is a good investment to make. Whether we've been doing it in the right way is, you know...
Have you dealt with the bottlenecks, the biggest complaint, the amount of time it takes to get loans, the tedious paperwork needed, the number of steps you need to jump before you can get a youth fund loan? Is that now easier?
That is now much easier. I mean, the turnaround time now has moved from what I found it at about 3 months.
3 months?
To now about 2 weeks to 3 weeks.
Okay.
We have reviewed the requirements for accessing these loans, and we've made it much more accessible. But we must always remember the fact that a commercial facility, which this is, it's really pretty much a loan that we're giving. It's not a grant. Okay, still has some basic requirements that you must be able to meet.
And you'll never be able to get rid of them.
And we're never going to be able to get rid of them. So it's never going to be a kiosk where you will walk in and walk out with money. There'll always be these conditions. And, you know, back to the education system that Sakaja was talking about, I think it's important that even for young people who want to go into entrepreneurship, we start investing in their knowledge base much earlier.
Okay.
Because entrepreneurs don't just happen. It's a journey. You know, Sakaja was telling people here earlier how he started with selling popcorn and chips, right? But by the time you're...
and washing...
And laundry and washing. I know he called it laundry, but it was in a mama fua, right?
He'll tell you about it.
But entrepreneurship is a journey.
Okay.
All right? Most entrepreneurs, before they have their big break with their big business, have failed 3, 4, 5 times.
Good.
So we need to invest in young people to build, one, their confidence, but also build their capacity in the long-term game. And this has to be embedded in the education system.
You're sitting next to a professor who knows a thing or two about education. Prof, your thoughts on how we need to amend our education system?
Right. Waigwa, any wise leader must be able to think in 100 different ways, but more importantly, in hundreds of years to come. Our problem is not unique, and there's no magical job in another country for other citizens. If you look at the international trend, it is no longer skills, knowledge, all these symptoms of talent. Because whenever I talk about talent, people try to confuse talent to do with music, to do with comedy, to do with this. Talent is God-given. It is what you have as a human. At international level and research, today we are talking about human value and the human equation. Mark my words. Who are you as a youth? What is your value? And therefore, if I can define your human equation, you go check on our website what those mean. If I have time, I'll explain. Then we constitute what is known as a talent database.
Okay.
And talent database means, Waigwa, for just a second.
Okay, briefly, please. Yes.
You wanted to fund a band, a youth, they have come, 10 of them. They say they want to play music, they just lack the money. How will you know? I know how to sing. The other guy knows how to play the bass guitar. How shall I know them? Somebody must have assessed, and we should be having those human values in a database so that at the click of a button, I can tell Towet from Baringo, Ochieng from Homa Bay, Koyet from Narok are the team members that I have assessed scientifically and professionally, and therefore I can fund and get results.
So it's almost
Don't
like
forget,
what the National
yes,
Employment
I'm just
Authority are
giving
doing,
you
but a talent
yes
database instead.
Remember what we're discussing here. When I was born, it was being discussed. There was no job at the time I was leaving the university. So this talk goes on and on and on and on, and we need to find the right solution. You just keep telling people you'll create job for the youth. Which job has ever been created by any government? Come on. Youth will create their own jobs. Give them what they should have.
Give them what they should have. Hang on there, Professor. Let's now bring in some questions, and Mashirima Kapombe is on standby to help us with that. Mashirima.
Na Mwahiga, yale ambayo anasemwa hapo mbele yanaonekana mazuri, ni kama yameandikwa mahali na wengi wanatamani kuwa angekuwa anafanyika. Nataka tu kumpatia nafasi Gitau Hesbon aweze tu kutueleza kwa kifupi kisa chake ambacho nadhani kuna vijana wengi ambao watamsikiza, wataona pia mimi niko hapo hapo. Gitau, tafadhali simama tueleze.
Kwa majina ni Gitau Hesbon. I graduate from Jomo Kenyatta University. I graduated on 2015 with a Bachelor in Business Information Technology. Since then, nimefanya internship in 3 institutions. And like Mheshimiwa amesema, I knew nobody in those institutions. So after 3 months, I never secured any job from there. So I thought going back to the county, for the county opportunities that were there for the graduates, they were asking for 5 years experience, of which I didn't have. For the opportunities that required diplomas, I applied for them, and then I was told I'm overqualified. So I thought for creating my own jobs, then I hired, I wanted to start a car wash. I hired the machine and the space, but the moment the owner saw my idea and it was growing, he took it away from me. Then I looked for a stall to rent in Nairobi. They asked for the rent and then the goodwill, of which I didn't have. So my question is, and especially to Mheshimiwa, the Jubilee government, which we chose, ilikuwa kumira dhuraku. What are you doing, and which are the strategies that you are laying to make sure that those graduates who are graduating, they secure jobs, at least that that earned school fees haijapotelea, na pia bado the graduate hawajapotelea kwa madawa za kulevya.
Senator, you've been allocated the task of government spokesperson for tonight. Please, Ronnie says rightfully, go ahead.
Yeah, you know, I won't go into, you know, the structure of government. There's executive and parliament, but I take responsibility as a leader. Because as a leader, the buck must stop somewhere, you know, and I will not pass it on. What he's talking about is the pain that many families, and that's why earlier I said, your dreams are not just yours. I know many people whose families, the parents had to sell cows, they have sold property, because we knew back then that if I take my child to school, then there'll be now my hope. You have gone to school, you have a degree, some have masters, yet you have no job. When you try to do a business, you'll find whichever town you are in, whether it is Kanjo or the police or who are on your back. You leave that, and recently I said it's as if there's an assault on our young people. And that's why for me it is very painful. And for me, I keep saying, all the laws we need are there. There's no new law we need. Me, I'm a legislator, I've been there for 2 terms. We've done the law. The Employment Authority law, she has it now to implement. The 30% which I also brought in the last parliament, saying that for you, as a young person, a woman or a person with disability, you must be given 30% of the value of procurement. Who is getting those procurement deals? We've seen in the counties, people's children, people's girlfriends, etc.
CS Kobia said only 6% back in 2018 were able to access those tenders. Only 6%.
So the number one thing that we must do is not even a strategy. Let us just implement the laws that we already have. This discussion must be taken more seriously by those in the executive arm of government, because in the legislature we have done our part. Number 2, you said you have a degree in BIT, which is why and as Prof had, I asked, who informed our universities how many BIT graduates we need? Who informed them that we need 1,000 people to graduate with BSc anthropology every year, or engineering? Without information, you cannot solve a problem. Our biggest problem in this country today being unemployment, yet it is the one place today there is no policy maker even sitting here who can tell me how many unemployed nurses we have in Nairobi or Kisumu or Eldoret. And that's why the authority that we created is supposed to pick up that information. Finally, you said one of the problems you had was that before you got a job, they asked you for 5 years experience.
In the counties.
Yet you've been in school 8 + 4 + 4. And that is no experience, you know?
But they don't listen to that.
They don't listen to that, which is why we said that we must incentivize. Government, Prof is right, government does not create jobs, but it creates the environment. If you incentivize the private sector, and they know that if I employ X number of young people who have not yet done 6 months out of school,
yes,
I will get this kind of relief in terms of tax relief or etc., then they will be more inclined to get young people like you without that experience to come and grow into that experience.
Fair
and
enough, Senator.
That must be done. So for me,
that must be done. Okay.
The strategy and the response is not to redesign something new. Implement the laws we have struggled to pass. Just implement them.
Okay.
And if it can't be implemented, give us to implement.
Thank you, Senator. Only briefly, because we have so many questions.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think over and above implementing the policies that are there, I think we also need to be more strategic. So, for example, and you know, with all due respect to all the careers that people are pursuing, we need to be able to structure young people's entry into the job market, one, by having entry-level jobs, which does not require
any
experience. So that everybody has a fair shot at getting into the job market at whatever level. So entry-level jobs. And then from there now you work up in your career. But secondly, which is tied to what Sakaja is talking about, who has done research of what kind of jobs we need.
Okay.
Today, our largest sector of the economy is service sector. Yet every single day, we are talking about creating jobs in industrialization and manufacturing. Why? Service sector is the fastest growing. We are the kings of hospitality, for example, across the region. Why isn't it that we are investing in more young people in the hospitality industry, whether it is creating chefs, you know, producing chefs, waiters, all those kind of people, right? Why aren't we investing in this? Then DG here can be able to export those services if we have a surplus.
DG, I'll come to get a reaction, but let's get some more questions. Mashima?
Naam, kuna swali Wahiga ulikuwa umeliuliza awali, ni kama lilipotelea mahali, labda nimpatie nafasi Mary James aweze kuliuliza. Simama tafadhali.
Hello, my name is Mary James, a graduate from East Africa Institute of Certified Studies, Nairobi. I pursued diploma in journalism. So as for me, I have a suggestion, which is if the government is to release the 1 million jobs for Kenyans to work overseas, I believe all of us here, we are unemployed, or some of us have jobs. They are self-employed. Do you think it's wise for us, for the government to choose some of us or all of us to be the part of the team that is going to work overseas?
Okay.
Na hilo litafanyika lini?
Okay, so was she asking for a job? I don't know if
Yani DG ako na tickets.
DG, umesikia swali, you can answer.
Tuko na recruitment agencies. If you go to ims.go.ke, you'll be able to get all the recruitment agencies that tumepatia ma certificates, and they have those jobs. Government has given them that enabling environment to source for those jobs. And believe me, 1 million jobs ni kidogo sana. When you go outside there and find how countries like Philippines, they've been built by Filipinos who are working outside those countries, and they bring in billions of their currency that has built their economy. And you know the ripple effects of when Kenyans go and work out. I also want to mention that we have developed a curriculum that for the people who want to go and work, because working as house helps, you cannot stop people going to work there as house helps. You'll pay a house help here in Kenya maybe 3,000 Kenya shillings. When they go out there, they earn about 30,000, and they have accommodation, and they also have a ticket to and fro for at least one holiday, right? That kind of money helps to build the economy in a certain way.
Okay.
And just to mention,
go ahead,
is that these house helps, we have developed a curriculum for them, that then when they go out there, they are already exposed to how to use the machines and everything else that pertains to housework. Like let's say for example in the Middle East or even in Europe. So you see, we are trying to sell people who are marketable. And all you need to do is please visit our website, right?
Okay.
We have a lot of information on where you can get some of these
Madam
jobs.
DG, what guarantee does she have that her CV will be considered equally with the relatives of people who work in your organization and so forth, which has been an issue across the country, both in the counties and national government as well?
I can confidently say that the recruitment agencies are actually looking for these people.
So this is above board. Her CV will be
it is
considered by the right people.
Yes.
Thank you. Senator.
Just quickly to add, what she's asking is a bit different. She's asking, are we saying that the jobs that we'll get for young people are all outside? So that all of us go outside. The question we must ask ourselves, and I know I authored the bill and I created an opportunity for international, in fact even the PS Foreign Affairs is there, why are those countries able to employ you and ours is not? And that is what Kenyans are asking. What is it in those countries that's going on that then they're able to say, bring Kenyans, bring who, but we're not doing in Kenya? Number one, access to credit. Our young people are innovative. They have ideas. They cannot get those loans. Ronnie's loans are not enough for all the young people who have an idea. And we must be able to ask, and I've been saying this government to move a bit out of the domestic borrowing, because banks, which bank will give you a loan while government is asking for money from the same bank?
So you are part of this government, Senator. Do you ask them these questions?
Of course.
What do they tell you?
Of course, I ask them in Parliament, and what you said is this: we must limit.
No, in the Jubilee Party, when you meet.
I'm elected in Senate, so I'm a senator. And in the floor of the House, what I have raised, and you can look at it, honestly, I'm sure you've seen me raising it, is why is it that government is squeezing out the SME sector? I'm glad I asked the question a few weeks ago about Nyamakima traders. Today you've seen the president going to the internal, the container depot, saying, why are you harassing these traders who are the ones who are creating jobs for young people? So let's not tell Kenyans that, you know what, if you go to this site, you'll get a job out there. No. Let's make Kenya the place where we now even start importing jobs. And that is a dream of that authority.
Yeah. Thank you.
Na kuna jambo hapo Senator Sakaja ametaja kuhusiana na SMEs, ambapo Maina ametuma ujumbe hapa akisema SMEs wakati wa enzi za Kibaki ilikuwa watu wamepatiwa nguvu na kuhamasishwa, lakini serikali hii ni kama wamezimaliza zote. Viosk vinaangushwa, kama ni maduka ya vijana yanavunjwa. Kwake yeye anasema in fact the government is destroying youth jobs. Lakini kuna swali ambalo Edwina Komba akonalo kuhusiana na hii mikopo ambayo serikali inasema inapeana. Simama tafadhali.
Thank you, Mwashirima Kapombe, for this opportunity. My question was, why is to the youth fund, why are they making it so difficult for youth to access funds? Because I've been there at the office, and the requirements are too many for us to meet. Yeah.
What requirements?
The first one was, you have to have run a business for 1 year. Where does a youth get money to run a business for 1 year? And then the other one, you have to have securities. Where does a youth get money to buy land so that you take to the youth fund to get a loan from the youth fund? So that I found that so frustrating. Yes.
Osumba, that's for you.
Yeah, thank you for that question. Very good question, very good concerns. Hizo ni maswali musikiza kila mahali nikienda across the country. But like Sakaja has said, first and foremost, let us remove the notion that youth fund is sufficient to support all young entrepreneurs. It's not. So we need to grow that pool. But secondly, and most importantly, is that we have not done very well as a country generally to support startups. So people who come up with a new idea and want to go into the market immediately, the way we've framed our institutions is not very friendly to startups. So innovation and first-time business people will struggle. However, at Youth Fund, we've taken cognizance of that, and we've created a startup fund. So there today, I don't know how long ago you visited us, but today we
actually... That was 2 months ago.
Today, then you must have been misled, because today we actually have a product specifically for startup businesses, which supports people who are first time in business with new, fresh ideas. But secondly, the issue of collateral. Now, these are public funds, and you know, one of the fiduciary, the financial responsibilities that I have is to ensure that I take care of these funds. We have been engaging with the Treasury since day one when I joined the office, saying that Treasury needs to develop a credit guarantee scheme for the sake of women, youth, and persons with disability. I am glad that today, as we speak, the policy is now in place because we have pushed for it, and it should be rolling out. I heard it is rolling out in June, so I'm still hoping that it will roll out in June. Once we have this in place, what Treasury does is it says, for as long as you have a proper system of identifying a good business idea, the Treasury, on behalf of that person, will put down a shilling for every shilling I give you.
But until that guarantee is given by Treasury...
But until that guarantee is given by Treasury,
when will that be possible for youth to get
so if the policy comes out next month, then we will effect it immediately.
Okay, sorry, a quick reaction from Prof as we get the next question.
Right. Just as a summary of all those questions, if you hear any Kenyan looking for a job, they'll begin by describing their qualifications. I am a graduate of this, I'm a master's of this. Let me tell you Kenyans what goes out there. Very simply, there's an Asian man that came from India. He's not very educated. And he found some Jaluos who are very good in making chairs. The way they carve them nicely. He saw what they were able to do, and he bought from them and set up something called a supermarket. These Jaluos prefer to go sit in the office and look nice there.
I think you can just call them Kenyans.
Kenyans.
These Kenyans, go ahead.
They're my friends, the Kenyans.
Yes,
they're very good in the work they're doing.
Okay.
If you gave them the choice to continue what they're doing so that they grow that into an industry, they would rather tell you, unataka nikue mtu ya kupiga randa maisha yangu yote. Yet, the same guy buys his own product, sells at 10 times the price, and calls his team an entrepreneur. You guys, Kenyans, young people, it is not the time to carry photocopies of qualifications. It is a redefinition of your God-given potential known as talent. That you'd go to somebody and say, look here, far from my qualifications, this is my value. No employer will invest in you just because you got photocopies. Doesn't work, will not work.
Okay, thank you so much.
Wahiga, let me just put in something here, because I think this is important.
Okay.
And I think it's a conversation. This is a good conversation because we need to have it going forward. We need to redefine what jobs are. I think that's an important national conversation that we need to have.
Are we redefining it as we who are employed? For those who are not employed?
Yes,
Because
we are
those who say
defining
they're
it for those who are not employed, because it has an impact on their perception of what a job is. So there are jobs that people will not do because we have branded them hustles. So I saw a lady who, recently it was trending on social media, who studied, I think, the same technology in JKUAT. And she's running a salon. And she's employed 4 people. But she was doing this post and she's complaining the way, she doesn't have a job, she's idle, and government is not doing anything about it. And I'm thinking to myself, hey, hang on, you're running a salon, you have clients, you've even employed 4 people. How come that is not a job? But it's because of the narrative that we have built around hustles. Because a hustle is not a job. If you're a boda guy in Kenya today is a hustler.
Is a hustler.
In Europe, there are service providers in the transport industry.
Thank you.
And that just makes a difference, complete difference in terms of how the young people perceive what they do. So this is what talking to Prof's thing, that people don't want to be carpenters, yet these seats we are sitting here on today, all these seats are from China, right? If we are to shift that narrative, we would have more people producing these seats.
Thank you,
and
Chair.
therefore creating more jobs.
Thank you, Chair, for that. Let's get the next question.
Na nataka tu kumpatia nafasi Muthiora Kariara. Utamkumbuka wakati mmoja alikuwa pia anajaribu kuwa naibu wa rais.
My name is Muthiora Kariara. I'm a red vest. I would like to understand from Ronnie and Sakaja and Madam DG here why it's so important for them to manage the perception that our economy is expanding and creating jobs, that we have a conducive environment for businesses to thrive. Now, to Ronnie specifically, you're a young person who was given a lot of responsibility when you were posted to be the chair for the youth fund. The budget you're given is not sufficient if we are sincere to be giving out loans. Yes, you're doing something, but to be sincere, you should be developing capacity to support businesses instead of opening another bank, and yet we know the government is not good at doing business. Yeah. Why have you not been honest enough to tell whoever hired you that we should repurpose and focus on the root of the problem?
Thank you, Muthiora. By the way, he is the chairman of Boda Boda in Nairobi. Nationally, he's the chairman of Boda Boda Association. So,
okay.
So
good. He'll tell us about that.
So that's a job.
He wants you to answer his question.
Repurposing. And I think, you've captured it very well. One of the conversations that we've been having, you will only realize that unfortunately the bureaucracy of government, to shift the wheels of government, takes a lot. It takes a lot of effort. But this is a conversation we're having. In fact, today as we speak, as we're talking about Biashara Kenya Fund, one of the things that personally I have pushed for is to say, if this fund is not an enabler, if our business is about dishing out money, we will never succeed. We need to be able to use the pot of money that we have as government to enable other, whether it is private equity funds, whether it is venture capitalists, whether it is commercial banks, to leverage on the resources that are out there to be channeled towards young people. So this is a conversation that is happening now. We are building the policy towards reaching there, but it's not going to be easy. Precisely because I've already explained that the bureaucracy of government, the way government is structured, before that conversation goes through the motions to a place where it is now said, okay, twende namna hiyo.
It takes a long time.
It's going to take a while.
How many businesses have you successfully built as the youth fund? Do you have any ballpark figures?
That's a very subjective number.
It is how
we will say we have financed over 180,000 businesses.
Over 180,000 businesses.
Successful is another story altogether. And because what is the measure of success? Again, going forward, and this is something that we're implementing from January. Going forward, success for me will be a business that is able to outlast the first 3 years, is able to create at least 10 jobs, and can be able to define. Today, if you talk to young people and ask them, what's your annual turnover? You know, we need to be able to measure this so that this young person who you've given 100K, at the end of the year can proudly stand up and say, with 100K, I turned over business worth 5 million. That is my contribution to national economy.
That is your contribution. Prof, briefly, Prof, go ahead.
Very brief. Ronnie, you are talking about many people defaulting. You know why?
No. That's not what I said.
No. if they are not successful, then there was no need even to give the money. You know the problem?
Agreed.
The problem is simple. I came with an idea that I thought I would lift off by myself. Usually, for people to succeed, and if you check many businesses, there will be the originator of the idea. There will be those who like the idea and have the opportunity to reach Ronnie first. He doesn't have the original idea. So he knows how to talk and reach Ronnie. He gets the money, gets his cronies, and somehow, along the way, he dwindles off. Takes me back, Bwana Sakaja. Whereas in Kenya, we are putting a skills database. Internationally, they are maintaining a talent database. And talent is not music, I repeat again. The reason why those things are failing, you do not have the human value of the people coming to you. If you know the metric value of a person, then you can forecast that person 20, 30 years away from now. And that's the only time you'll succeed.
And that you feel is lacking, Senator?
Yes.
I think
they're chasing the wrong things.
That's on that. I think you're a professor. We'll need more time on this talent and skill issue. But I'll tell you the creative economy, for instance. Yeah, because he keeps saying music. The creative economy, for instance, is a frontier for job creation. If you go to Nigeria, the number 2 biggest employer is Nollywood. Yeah? Not the oil. It's actually Nollywood. But the point that Ronnie has made, you know, and just supporting that, for us to actually create these jobs, supporting SME sector does not mean creating many new SMEs.
Yes.
By giving them loans to start. Because you've told us the success rate at age 3. The existing SMEs, if supported
to grow,
can actually increase employment exponentially. Because those are tried and tested.
Yep.
You may not even need, actually, if you just move some of that money that has been taken to startups, to actually the existing ones that have been tried and tested, that's what's happened in many, many different countries. So yes, I agree with you. You asked the first question about the perception. I call it as it is. I know Waiga is at pains to ask me, why do I ask, and I'm in government. It's like saying every MP and senator elected on Jubilee should not talk. I will keep talking because I am elected on behalf of the people. And what I'm saying is that government, it is very unfair for us to go to young people every year scream, we've created 1 million jobs, yet he's been jobless for 5 years. And now his smaller brother or sister has entered the job market as well and is jobless. So it's not about these numbers. These numbers don't help us in terms of just putting them on the newspaper. It is how we're impacting these lives. Let's look at these non-traditional areas like the creative economy. Yep. Let's look at talent in terms of what innately is yours. God has given everybody a purpose that can connect you with a career as you move forward. And let's be serious about it and implement what we've already passed before.
Thank you, Senator. Mashirima?
Wacha nimpatie sasa nafasi Joseph Jonge. Simama tafadhali.
Yes, I'm Joseph Jonge. I'm a master's student at Kenyatta University, but I'm forced to hawk clothes at Mudhuro Market and also in the streets of Nairobi. Now, we are being told that we should not carry the photocopies looking for jobs, but again, when you start the small jobs, the government is putting so much pressure on the youth. The KRA is behind you looking for the small return that you have. HELB is behind you again for the money you used to study, and yet you've not gotten the job. Again, when you venture into agriculture, there are so many sales points before you get to the market. You see? So, what are we supposed to do as the youth? Since we are trying to create our jobs, but the government has so much pressure on us. It's like using a small donkey to carry a big load. Why can't we allow the donkey to grow so that it can be able to carry the big load? Thank you.
All right, Madam DG, you've been a bit quiet. Your body should alleviate some of his pain. Master student, but not doing what he wants to do. How can you respond to his cry?
One, it's very important that we have, no matter what you say, you cannot come up with a good plan if you don't have the data. And this is the authority that is supposed to be collecting all this data on the skills that we have and the jobs that are available. And when you collect the skills that we have, or the talent, if I want to go the professor way, then we will be able to advise government on the path on which we are supposed to go. Further than that, the authority, when you approach us, we will be able to work with you, the courses that you have done, and be able to give you guidance and counseling on how you can improve on your areas. We are able also to advise you on the areas where you can go and maybe start up business. It's not only the youth fund where you can get the finances, and areas where you can look for employment in Kenya if you're interested in getting work, because employers are being encouraged to also deposit their vacancies with the authority.
Okay.
And that's why now we have an interactive portal where job seekers can register with us, and the vacancies are also registered with us.
What is your response to the young people who say their issue is not with being connected to jobs, there just are no jobs?
And that's what I'm saying, when they walk to our offices, we are able to give them guidance and counseling on other areas on where they can develop their talents or maybe create employment.
And guidance and counseling will help?
It does help.
That young man does not look like he needs guidance and counseling.
He does.
You say he does.
He does.
He does. Okay, Ronnie,
Yes.
sorry. Go ahead.
Waiga, I want to challenge DG that they need to be more scientific and deliberate in their approach to how they link young people to jobs. Brighter Monday produced a report this year, and Brighter Monday said every year on the Brighter Monday platform in Kenya alone, they're processing between 800,000 to 1 million jobs. Goes back to Sakaja's first comment, but only about 50,000 of guys who apply for those jobs get the job. And most employers come back to Brighter Monday and say, we didn't get the right skill set. So it is not that there are no jobs completely. The opportunities are there.
That data from Brighter Monday shows you that
Yes.
there are jobs.
They are, well, not enough to cater for everybody, but I'm saying the number of jobs they turn over in a year, they can only be able to link less than about 5% of young people to those jobs. Why? Employers come back to them and say, we didn't get the right skill set. So it is not that these guys don't have the skills, it's that they are not being told what the employer is looking for. So this guidance and counseling resources should go into ensuring that young people have actually the right skills. But that's not what I wanted to mention.
Okay.
Geoffrey, right? He said, Joseph said, Gava inawanyanyasa sana, even when they're trying to create their own jobs. So he's developing his own kiosk somewhere on Kirinyaga.
Helba waiting for him.
Helba waiting for him.
Different bodies, KRA.
But let me tell you the biggest challenge with these young people are facing. There are three, and I will challenge Sakaja because we need to relook at some of the laws. I wish I was like Sakaja, I could introduce a bill in parliament.
Yeah, bring.
Please bring.
What
What are the three challenges?
The three challenges. One
Yes.
is registration and licensing. So somebody in construction here, for example, NCA, when you go to NCA, unataka kufanya kazi yako ya masonry in construction, you need the licensing regime at NCA will kill you. Registration of business through the AG's office is a nightmare. So registration is one problem. The second problem is KRA, taxes. These guys just can't keep up with that 30% ceiling for businesses that are registered. It is just not possible, all right? They're busy trying to pay for help, busy trying to pay for other things.
Okay.
30% won't work. The final one is HR laws, okay? Because when an SME is hiring Ronnie, they should not be applied for the same rules that, for example, Safaricom does. So what we really need is an intervention on a Small Businesses Act. So we have the Corporations Act, or whatever the
now
Small Companies Act,
specifically
but
for
we need
small
one
businesses.
specifically for small businesses.
Thank you so much,
that
Ronnie,
enables them.
for that. Interestingly, the World Bank says the ease of doing business in this country is getting easier, but for more
For big businesses.
For big businesses, but not for small
Not
ones.
for small
Thank you. Mashrima, let's get another question in.
Na Ronnie hapo ametaja kuwa kuna sehemu ya Brighter Monday ambapo watu wanapata kazi, lakini Evans ana swali ambalo nadhani atahitaji ufafanuzi zaidi. Sawa.
Asante sana bwana Super Senator. Mimi na swali. Mimi kama kijana niliweza kufuzu mwaka 2014. Hadi leo sijaipata kazi. Na serikali inasema kwamba inatengeneza kazi kila mwaka. Je, hizi kazi zinapeana wapi na zinapatikana wapi, au na nani ambao wanapewa hizi kazi? Kwa sababu mimi mwenyewe binafsi nimewahi jaribu kutafuta hizo kazi, lakini mara nyingine naambiwa kwamba pengine nipeane kama shilingi 1200. Mimi kijana wa mtaani natoa wapi hela hizo ili nipate kazi hiyo?
Asante. Na nimekuelewa kabisa, nimekuelewa kabisa. Na ameniita Super Senator. Lakini kwa sababu ni kweli kazi yangu mimi ni kuwa sauti yenu na mtetezi wenu. Na nafikiri baadhi yenu mmesikia nikitetea masuala ya vijana na masuala ya ajira, wale ambao wanasumbuliwa na help, wale ambao wanasumbuliwa na kama ni kanjo ama serikali ama KRA etc. CRB wote. Kuna serikali ambapo kuna wale ambao wanaunda sheria, na sheria tumeunda. Kazi yetu pia ni kupiga darubini kwa hawa, kuwafanyia oversight, kuhakikisha wale ambao wanatekeleza, the executive ambao ni mawaziri, county governments, wanatekeleza hizo. So tutaendelea kwa sauti yenu kuhakikisha. Siwezi ambia Joseph ati Kenya imepanda ease of doing business by sijui how many steps. Yeye mudhuru wa ease of doing business haisikii na haioni. So you see, that is a voice that we must keep shouting from the mountain top that those things must be changed. Lakini nikiongezea hapo, I wear two hats. Number one, nilikuwa mimi ndo niliunda sheria ya Employment Authority na pia sheria ya 30% biashara zipewe vijana na kina mama. Si ni kweli? Ya pili, sasa bado kama mtetezi wenu vijana na wanyonge taifa nzima, sio Nairobi peke yake. Mimi ni mwenyekiti wa kamati ya labor katika Senate. So next week but one naita hawa sasa bunge ni agree. Niseme sheria hapa na wewe. Employment Authority, Ministry of Labor, county governments. Niseme county governments tumewapatia pesa. If every county government for instance implemented my law on 30%, unajua ile pesa ingezunguka kwa mifuko ya vijana 330 billion shillings a year. If the national government and county governments just implemented sheria ambayo tumepitisha. Kenya hii hakuna kampuni East and Central Africa, hata Safaricom, ambayo iko na turnover ya 330 billion. So when I keep saying implementation, don't think I'm just repeating the same thing. The legal framework tunayo. Hata nilipatiwa tuzo kule UN, nimepatiwa tuzo Nigeria kwa sheria ambayo haijaonekana kote duniani. Lakini implementation pande ya
implementation gap, shida ni gani?
Ndo lazima waje tuulize shida ni gani, kwa sababu ya kwanza na shida kubwa taifa letu tunajua ni gani, si ni gani? Ufisadi. Corruption. Because I will bring a report and say, as a minister or as a governor of this county, I have given X amount of money to young businesses, women and persons with disability. Let me ask you here today who you're here. Wangapi mnajua wamezipata? Kuna wale mnajua? Wale hawajui inweni mikono? Wale ambao hawajui? Yeah, let's see. So
none of this have access either
exactly.
Either that youth, women or person with disability.
So you see, or someone you
or
know,
even people they know.
So the success stories are few and far in between, because there are fake numbers coming saying we gave these numbers. In fact, the other day I was asking for a forensic audit. Mnasema hii ndo youth company mmetupatia. I promise you, mkiangalia hizo youth company kwa county government, mtapata hii kampuni ni ya mtoto wa huyu, mwingine alionekana na sijui milioni ngapi kwa account yake, ni bibi ya huyu, ndo wanaitwa women enterprise. Person with disability is not even disabled. Maybe he's disabled because he's winking. You know, so we must become serious and we must do oversight. So sisi tunahitaji DCI watusaidie kama bunge. Tunahitaji EACC watusaidie. Because the law is there and we're stealing from these young people. And let me tell you, in this country, the biggest threat to our security is not Al-Shabaab or ISIS. It is millions of disengaged, disillusioned young people wamesoma, wako mtaani kama ndugu yangu amefanya BIT, ndugu yake mdogo pia amesoma, alafu anaona kwa gazeti leo kesi ya ufisadi. Kesho umeleta milioni 10 kwa hii kanisa. Magari kubwa inapita, hana kazi bado. I promise you, if we don't deal with that, I don't know if we'll have a country in the next 5-10 years. So mtu support sisi kama watetezi wenu. Msiangalie kazi ambayo tunafanya.
Someone is asking how?
By being a voice where you are. Everybody has a sphere of influence. Mko social media mnatukana na kikabila, wacheni. Mko wapi mna support kiongozi kwa sababu ya kabila, wacheni. Support ideas. Once the normal young person watasema hapana, kama Sakaja amesema hii, kama niko chama chake ama siko, nitaisupport na nitaongea mtaani.
But if they do that,
if you do that, let me tell you the power of the people. Even Article 1 of our constitution talks about the sovereign power of this country. Don't feel helpless as a young person. We actually have the power to voice it out. Msema ati wadozi ndo mwakalia. But also the flip side is this. I asked them, How many young people do you know who've gotten those contracts? Nimauliza. Mkasema amjui and I want you to participate. Okay, how many of you have registered a business? Raise your hand.
So we're looking at roughly 10 in
10 out of 42.
That
is 25%. 20%.
10%.
Wale ambao umeregister, keep your hands up. How many of you have applied to be registered under AGPO? AGPO ni ile inakupatia certificate ya access 30%.
Is it their fault if the information does not get to them?
Let me finish my line of questioning.
Okay.
How many of you have registered for AGPO? None. How many of you know about AGPO? So you see there's a breakdown somewhere by how we're executing. Because kuna wengine watasema sijachukua kwa sababu hiyo hata mkiregister lazima ujuane, so hata sijajaribu. Lakini hujajaribu kashindwa. There is some apathy as well. You know, we must talk about both sides. There's also some apathy where you say, this thing if you try, you will not get. Number two,
wale wako na pesa ni wale.
Executive pia lazima ifanye. Tunataka kuona ma road show, si tu road show ya nini ya campaign. Road show mkienda mnakuja mtaa Kayole. Mnaambia vijana kujeni, register ndio hii biashara. So we need to, that's what I'm saying,
thank
implement what we already have.
The show is for the people, let the people now respond to what you've had to say, Mashirima.
Nafasi wale ambao wako hapa kuuliza swali, labda naweza kusoma tu baadhi ya arafa ambazo zimetumwa. Daktari Ouma Oluga ambaye ni katibu mkuu wa chama cha madaktari anasema the issue of unemployment is not about skills or lack of capital for the youth or that the youth aren't creative enough to produce their own jobs. The problem with unemployment is that our economy is not producing jobs, and the sectors that are producing some few jobs like construction, the jobs are being given to the Chinese. If it were about skills, we would have 3,000 unemployed doctors and thousands of unemployed nurses. Hospitals have capacity to absorb all the doctors and nurses and still have huge shortages. Labda Senator Sakaja kama unaweza kumjibu, anasema hizo kazi zinapeanwa watu wengine ambao si raia wa taifa hili.
The first thing he said is what I said. We must look at the structure of our economy. Ndio nikauliza mbona mnafikiri kazi inapatikana Qatar, kwani Qatar economy yao inakaaje? How are we structured ours, and are we pushing out these young people from the economy? The economy must create jobs. So I agree with Dr. Oluga. Ya pili ni ile nasema tu implementation ya sheria. Sheria yetu inasema hakuna mtu ambaye anafaa kufanya kazi Kenya ama kupatiwa kandarasi Kenya nye Mkenya anaweza kufanya. Sheria inasema hivyo tayari. Inasema 40% even if we give you a contract kama ni China wanajenga barabara hapa. 40% of all the work must be done by the locals. It is simple implementation. And you see our courts need to support us when we raise this question. So I agree with Dr. Ouma Oluga. Yes,
you agree with him that the economy is simply not producing any jobs?
Not simply. You know, there's no one answer as to what is not creating the jobs. There's also the skills mismatch. You know, there's also that skills mismatch. Many employers, and I've started with FKE.
For him, he says the skills mismatch is not the issue. No.
Yeah, so I don't agree with him entirely there.
With him on that.
But I agree with him that our economy is not currently in a shape to produce that quantity, and that's why we must relook at it. Are we borrowing too much? Number one. Number two, have we squeezed out from the domestic market the private sector? Number three, the sectors that you're focusing on, are we encouraging young people? Agriculture is the biggest GDP contributor. How many young people are willing to go and get into agriculture? So it's how the economy is shaped.
And I agree with Sakaja and Tari, but Sakaja misses one point. Agriculture is not the largest economy. It's not the largest sector in this economy. It's service. And
service has overtaken agriculture. You have those numbers.
Service is 56% of GDP. And unfortunately, it's because, let me finish.
Service cuts across even within agriculture.
Let me finish. Agreed. But service as a sector, and this is my point precisely. For as long as we do not appreciate that service as a sector is the largest sector within our economy, number one, but number two, that globally, it is today the sector that is producing the greatest number of jobs. Therefore, we don't invest in it. So we keep talking about agriculture, we keep talking about tourism, we keep talking about industrialization, and we ignore where the real potential is. Okay. And this is then the policy conversation that we need to be having and saying, are we investing in the right sectors? Are we spurring growth within the right sectors?
Okay.
And for me, for as long as we're not talking about service, then we're missing the point.
We're missing the point. Prof, I'm coming to you and DG as well, but let's get another question.
Emmanuel ana swali lakini pia nadhani ni kauli ya jinsi ambavyo tunaweza kutatua haya maswala.
Okay, nashukuru. Kwa majina naitwa Emmanuel Injendi, and I think the government our government has turned to be a graveyard to our existing companies and manufacturers, because since I grew up, I've been experiencing some of great companies, some of great manufacturers going down. And I think these are the companies, these are the manufacturers that if actually our government is able to revive them, then we can't be here talking about the stories of going to outside the country for the sake of jobs, when we can revive our own industries and employ our own, so that it's only that for the government to implement it, then it will work. But if it is not implemented, like from where I come from, I come in a land whereby the great factory that is Mias Sugar, it has been going down while we are seeing it, and currently you will experience that most of the youth who are employed there, now they have no job. So you can ask yourself as a government, where are they? What are they doing? Thank you.
Thank you. I wanted Prof. I know Prof just weigh in before I allow another voice. Go ahead.
Very good. You know, we have to be very realistic as a country. The same kind of complaints that we hear from our leaders, from the citizens. My guy, I told you when I was born, they were there. Right now, we need to face the reality.
But when you were born, Prof, and I can't guess when.
Yes.
The numbers must have been very different from what we are hearing
yes,
now,
yes,
surely.
Yes. You can imagine I finished my degree close to 20 years ago. You know?
And we are told jobs were waiting for graduates as they left university.
Yes.
So is it real? Okay. Is what you're saying true, that it's the same situation as then?
No. Look here. The problem right now is that we have youth who are given a promise, and that is why the same questions are being asked here.
Okay.
When my parents sold the last piece of land, the government sang the song, so many vijana. Sindio? Mwisho wa kusoma, utapata kazi. They look at their mindset. Government will give the jobs. We went to school. We qualified. We have the papers. We want the jobs. Listen, we have to change this mindset. It's not that way, folks. It doesn't work like that anymore. Beyond the skills that you acquired in the schools, you need to rediscover yourself. And that is what I call talent. You need to find that new human value that you originally had. It is not just about you. At your age, there are people who are now 70 years. They were complaining the same. So you got to find a new dimension. Change your mindset. It's not going to work, folks. Complaining will not help. Government will be government. Corruption will be corruption. You got to find your way out in there.
You are worrying the young people who are watching. I think they feel that they have no hope. Okay. You know what? We have so many questions. Let's get another question. Then I'll come to both you and both of you. Let's get another one.
Sawa, kabla wacha nichukue mawili ndio ikuwe rahisi kuyajibu. Kennedy Otinga katika mtandao wa Twitter anajibu jambo ambalo limesemwa na Senator Sakaja. Anasema problem with Sakaja laws is that he brings his own ideas to the house. NEA and AGPO laws are flawed and reason for lack of implementation. Seek our views. When did you last meet youth officers working with youth on day-to-day basis? Atajibu hilo swali. Ngoja kidogo. Kwanza Mbega, tuambie swali lako.
I'm Patrick Mbega from the University of Nairobi, Chiromo. Now, my first comment goes to the Prof. Prof has said that we should stop walking around with copies of qualifications, that is.
And stop complaining.
Yeah. To me, I think that is being hard on us. Probably a better term is insulting. Because, for instance, if I ask you to resign from your office, then you volunteer to serve in that position as you do use your talent to earn money, you will not accept. But again, some of us, we are gifted upstairs.
Yes.
That is our talent.
Yes.
So we go to school,
yes,
pass very well, and therefore we need employment.
Right.
But the opportunities are not there. That is first comment.
Right.
My second comment goes to Senator Sakaja. I'm a keen follower of how you do your politics. And therefore, you captured my attention at some point. I've been a waiter at 5-star hotels, for instance, Panari Hotel. Again, I started my own business of being a delivery partner. So I find it very difficult coming to you, Senator. Please give me 500 shillings. I'll come to you and ask you, please allow me to deliver these things to your place or your office so that you pay me. Go and check your records very well. I booked appointment over there almost a year ago. I wasn't allowed to see you anywhere. And I really thank Dr. Umoluga for that, because when I approached him, he gave me the opportunity. I've been doing so many deliveries to his place, which I don't want to mention the place so far.
Okay.
You need to trust us, some of us.
So you're concerned that ever since you lodged a request with his office,
yes, because I like how he supports the youths ideologically. So when I go to the person who supports us, I'm not able to see him.
You're not able to see him. Okay. Good. Let's start with Senator, and then also we'll come to you, Chair. DG, we need to get a comment from you.
Only that you've not been able to.
Fires up.
You can imagine. I am one senator with I think 4 members of staff. True. And I have 5 million residents in Nairobi. True. So I'm sure even when we came there, so very many people. So we do try our best. And since you've said it on TV, I'm sure you will tell me after this. But more importantly, what you've said is true. That you have changed your own mindset, and you're saying that for you, instead of me giving you 500 shillings, and I'll give you an example. Just today, we were at Bama Market earlier on and went to another part of the city. The fact that it was an impromptu meeting, yet there were thousands of young people there. For me, leave the ones working in the market. On the other side now, Vijana, there were thousands, not mobilized by anybody, available on a Monday afternoon. Shows me there's something terribly wrong. How we feel Urupak on Tuesdays, there's something terribly wrong with the economy. But on that question that came online about Sakaja's laws are not good, it flawed, it is the words he used. You know, I don't pass the law in my house alone. There are 349 MPs, there are 67 senators. Those are the proposals I've brought. They may not be perfect. I'm not perfect, but I'm trying, and I'm legislating. Laws are not perfect. Even our constitution, today we're talking about amending our constitution and a referendum. So if you feel a law is flawed, as a citizen today, any citizen, you can petition parliament and say, amend that law in this clause, amend that law in this clause, or ask your MP, which one has your MP brought? Ask him to bring another one. But that will not stop me from legislating how I believe is my mandate.
Do you have any regrets
I will keep
about your laws?
Of course not. That's my proudest moment.
You stand by them?
Leave alone stand. My proudest moment in parliament was when I have come up with laws from scratch, done public participation, gone through first reading, second reading, committee, sponsored the bill, and it has passed. There is no greater result for a member of parliament. Many leave parliament after 10 years without speaking.
Without nothing.
So you can't ask me if I stand for them. I'm proud of them.
You're proud of them?
Yes.
Ronnie.
So amend where there's an issue. Let's strengthen the laws.
Let's strengthen the laws. Ronnie, come in.
No, big up to Sakaja. Those two laws, by the way, are revolutionary if properly implemented.
And they're landmark if implemented.
If properly implemented. So there's always room for improvement. Back to the question that the gentleman from Mumias asked. And I think that goes to the fundamental concerns of lack of jobs within the manufacturing and industrialization sector. Look at our consumption patterns. We are consuming everything foreign, everything. From our clothes. Today, Kikomi, Rivertex, all down. Why? Because we all put on nice, fine designer clothes from abroad, right? While we can has led to the death of cotton industry, while we can actually produce locally and consume our own. I had already talked about these chairs, right? Today we are talking about 500,000 houses in the housing program. I can guarantee you 90% of those components will come from China, while we have skilled and able young people to produce those things locally.
Because of the position you sit in,
yes.
Because of the knowledge you have,
yes.
Does the Youth Fund have a think tank that can put those ideas together so that when young people come to the Youth Fund with possibly ideas that are flawed, you can then tell them, listen, this is a good idea, but research shows that we need more chairs. Research shows that if we could, is that something that the Youth Fund would consider?
Yes, definitely. We actually have what we call Yedef Baraza, which we have all these conversations with young people who come to us, and we try to fashion young people to go into sectors that can produce. But remember, it's not a Youth Fund conversation. This is a policy conversation. Youth Fund is an implementer of policy. And therefore, if I send a young person, for example, and say, look, we need to shift the consumption patterns in the country so that we're producing more chairs and sitting on our own chairs, they'll be alone. there will be no policy framework to support that young person who has gone into that sector. So it can't be a youth fund conversation. It has to be a global conversation.
Okay, you're next, Madam DG, but let's get a question and then I come to you. Go ahead.
Kabla kumpatia nafasi mmoja, nitasoma tena ujumbe hapo umetumwa kwenye mtandao wa Twitter, na huu ni ujumbe wa profesa. Nadhani kuna vijana wengine ambao wamekasirishwa na yale ambayo amesema. Ernest Ndongo anasema, Professor, which talent did you discover you have? Kindly, please tell us.
Which talent did you discover you have? You want me? Can you?
He can answer then.
He can answer. So which talent have you yourself discovered you have?
I was discovered I should be a preacher.
A preacher? Are you? Have you turned that into an income earning activity?
Yes, I've really wasted my time. I should be preaching by now. However, I think you didn't get me right. Sometimes it's normal, and I've seen it over and over. There's a young man working in the AU right now. He's called John Jenga. John Jenga was forced by the parents to complete a degree just as a natural parent in Nairobi, because he was wasting time in so much in the art. So he did Bachelor of Business Administration. If you see Jose Chameleon, when we're doing the Coke Studio here at the showground, those clothes that were designed was done by the talent of this George Njenga. When an opportunity came to preview those who could work at the African Union, George, yes, came with his Bachelor of Business Administration, but above that, he came also with his sketches of how he can fit garments. In fact, I remember he carried, what do you call this thing, I think, the charani, to the showground. Today, he works in Addis Ababa at the AU. I only meant not that your qualification is zero. In fact, in talent, we call them modifiers and enrichers.
Okay.
But you got to go to the core of you. That is what's going to lift you off.
Okay, okay. And Madam DG, before you get the next question, there's a young man that asked about why are we so focused on external jobs? Is there any way the National Employment Authority can challenge the government to create more employment locally before we look externally?
What I can say on that is that, you know, we have laws. When you breathe life into these laws, then, and we have this kind of conversations, it opens up our minds. But when we have the laws as they are, and they challenge somebody as to, you go and look at the function of what the National Employment Authority is, and those are some of our functions. So what do? We have this kind of discussions. We find the best way in how we can implement those functions.
Okay.
And
right now the best way is externally.
The way, because it is one of our mandates.
Okay.
So we have to look at the best way in how we can generate these jobs externally and in a safer manner.
In a safer manner.
In a safer manner.
Okay.
You know, we don't have that broad, like let's say a broad mandate where you can do anything and anything, because everybody has got their cut in government, what they're supposed to do, and all this leads to employment.
Okay. Save your comments because we do need to get the last two in. Hold them, please.
I'm clarifying that because I did the law.
You did the law. And then Ronnie will want to also clarify again. Okay.
The external element is just one part because of what had been happening around the world. We said every embassy of ours with a labor attaché in key countries should have a labor attaché who looks out for opportunities in those countries. But that is not the focus of it. The focus is actually local and not to create. Government does not create jobs. It creates that environment by incentivizing and structuring our economy in such a way that the private sector can thrive to create those jobs. That is the point I was making.
Okay.
And what the other gentleman was saying in terms of asking for the talent, I don't think they don't know his talent. The point is, it would be unfair on us to blame young people for the situation they are in as a result of how our economy is currently structured. It's good for us to encourage them on what they can do further, and I think they maybe got you wrong because that was not your intention. It's good for us to encourage them further, but not to tell young people that they are to blame for how our economy is structured currently and it's not being able to produce all those jobs.
Fair enough.
Required.
Okay.
Churchill, simama tafadhali.
Okay, my name is Churchill Amigo, a graduate at Masinde Muliro University of Science and Technology. I graduated in 2017, but up to now I don't have a job. My question goes to the National Employment Authority. Is there a mechanism that you have to establish whether a job is legitimate? Today is not news when you hear of young men joining Al-Shabaab or young ladies going to Saudi Arabia for jobs that they think exist, yet in the recent they don't exist. So is there a mechanism that the government has or your authority has that can show that this is a legitimate job or this a conmanship, something?
Okay, you've gotten that question?
Yes.
Okay. Where can they go to find out if jobs are real or not?
And that's why we have labor attaches in some of these countries where we send people. Before you pick up a job, it's always important that you get in touch with us. And the labor attaches are they find it very easy to clarify if some of those jobs are true or not.
I mean, okay, so let's be practical. If he's gotten a job offer from Lebanon somewhere, whatever country it is out there, how does he access a labor attaché?
That's why we're there.
Okay.
Yes, and we've done it, and we continue to do it.
Okay.
Where those offers are actually brought to our attention, and we are able to verify for you whether those jobs are genuine or not. What we have is that because of unemployment, many Kenyans do not have the patience to wait to find out whether these jobs are there or not. So in your anxiousness, you tend to take up these jobs before we can verify them. And that is where some of them are actually conned. By the time you're getting back to a Kenyan to tell them that this job is actually non-existence, they've already been conned.
So they should.
You should work very closely with the authority.
So any job offered by yours or affiliated partners,
we are able to verify. Not vetted all of them, but we are able to verify whether the jobs are authentic or not.
Okay.
Yes.
Mashrima.
Na kuna mmoja hapa alikuwa na swali. Simama tafadhali, tuambie jina lako na swali lako ni lipi?
Kwa majina naitwa Colin Salambo. Swali yangu inaendea madamu na mheshimiwa. Na swali yangu ni kuna baadhi ya wale watu wajaenda shule hawana sati yoyote. Kwa hiyo kazi tunasikia gava inapeana au wanaweza saidika aje?
Nasikia hiyo swali, kuna wale hawajaenda shule, they have no documents, forget about whether they should carry them or not. Mtawasaidia vipi? Wanaweza pata usaidizi vipi? Maybe standard 8 education, if not lower. How can you help such a young person?
Can I
go ahead?
Okay. Ingawaje mtaki kusikia ati tunawatafutia kazi nje, lakini hii ni njia moja tu. Tuko na curriculum ile tumedevelop kwa wale hawajafika kiwango fulani. Sasa ukienda kufanya kazi kule utaonyeshwa kwenye hiyo curriculum, utaonyeshwa vile kufanya kazi especially hizi za mkono, na utaonyeshwa vile hizo inchi pia zile vitu wanahitaji. Na most of this hata sio lazima wewe utoe pesa kwenye mfuko chako. How employment agencies huwa wanawapeleka kwenye hiyo training. Alafu sasa ukishapata hiyo training unaweza kwenda kutafuta kazi kule nje. The other one ni kuna hii program ya NITA ya KIOP. Mali skills uko nazo unapewa certificates. Hiyo skills unafanya kama trade tests. Ukishapata hiyo certificate sasa inakuwa rahisi kwako kujitambulisha na skills fulani.
Na hiyo test unaipata wapi? Which web?
NITA. Ukienda NITA unaweza kufanyiwa hiyo test. Sio lazima bora tuseme tuseme plumber. Unafanya kazi ya plumbing lakini hujaisomea mali pengine, umeisomea kwenye kufanya practically Yes. So when you go to NITA then you are able to be certified.
Okay. Ronnie, sorry, we haven't heard your voice.
Wahiga, big up sana kwa huyo boy because sio watu wengi kwa conversation hii ambao hawana masomo usimama wanauliza swali. And oftentimes we forget that there's that segment of young people who don't actually have any documents, no qualifications. Either they dropped out of school, they didn't finish, whatever happened, life happened. So ni big up sana kwa huyo boy.
Okay.
Gava sahi, na nafikiri director ameshasema, Gava sahi kuna programs kadhaa. Na sana ma youth hawataki kwa access hizi programs because zao onekana programs za kazi chafu. One ni KIOP. KIOP ni program poa sana.
KIOP stands for
Kenya Youth Empowerment and Opportunities Program. Okay? Hiyo program ina train watu wako na craftsmanship. So artisans, whether you're a mason, a mechanic, an electrician, a plumber. But the important bit of that program is that it gives you a certification through NITA. NITA is the training and certification partner. Okay? Ukishapata hiyo certification, today then you can be able to get a job. So uko na paper yako wewe pia. But number 2, Gavasa imeka do mob sana kwa TVET. technical and vocational training institutes. Again, for wale watu wako na skills za mkono, unajua plumber. Na today, by the way, mi uendanga nikienda hizi maraundi zangu across the country, everywhere, and I will do what Sakaja did earlier. I normally do this test and people fail. How many people here know a plumber? Unajua plumber? Right? Huyo plumber today anakosanga job. How many people here who know a plumber? Huyo plumber kotukwa how every day? Plumbers are extremely sought after. And it's not just plumbers, it's electricians. There are some skill set, and these are the things, DJ, you need to be telling these people. You need to be doing that research and telling these people there are certain categories of tasks and jobs that people are always looking for. But how many people go to TVET to register for a plumbing course? Courses zao za plumbing are zero. Hawana watu. Okay. Okay. So we need to.
These two things he directed at me as well.
Awareness.
Ama kuna mweshi mwingine hapa.
Hata mimi
briefly Sakaja, two things. The last question.
Two quick things. I know the authority launched last week.
Yes.
And for me, I'd wanted them to have launched much earlier when the law was done. All these things the authority can do are great and amazing. Madam DG. Shida ni hawajui.
It's not connecting.
Wakenya hawajui, hawaoni. The idea, and I remember the launch I said, instead of this trying to build a big building at Kabete for employment authority, every sub-county in Kenya today has a Huduma Center. Si kweli? Hiyo Huduma Center inafaa kuwa pia job center. Across the world there are employment bureaus. Hiyo job center ukienda hapo, all the information you're saying come to us. They go to their constituency. Kama ni hapa unaenda hapa hivi kwa DC Kibira hapa nyuma ya Prestige. You know, such that you move from Nairobi, such that that young person in Migori who does not have a job, who does not know the opportunity, who does not know his trade, can just go there physically. Number two, technology. Hawa watu wenye wamekuwa accredited, kama wewe ni mason, plumber, cobbler, etc., you need to have an app, just like Uber. Today if I want to live here, I'll just look an Uber near me. I should also be able to go to Nea or whatever and just say a plumber near me, a carpenter near me. Now unampata, you connect this people to the job. So those two things, Madam DG, can be done within the shortest time possible. Mambo ya mahoteli na hizi these nice places are not where the jobs seekers are or where the jobs are. Tuende kwa ground, let every single Huduma center give you one desk.
Okay.
That desk connected online.
Now she will.
Then wananchi watajua.
It's only fair that she responds. One briefly,
yes,
please.
Tuko na app ya National Employment Authority. Ukidownload, you register there, you'll be able to get the jobs that is available. Tuko na 30 employment offices.
What is the app called?
National Employment Authority. Yeah, for
30 employment?
You'll register, yes.
Okay.
Tuko na 30 employment offices, county employment offices, where you can go and get this information. Nikisema ukuje kwetu, ninamaanisha mali uko, they're going to be the nearest employment office. Tunatamani tuwe kwenye county zote, lakini funds hazituruhusu, lakini tutajaribu twende kwenye hizo. That's why tumesema yes, na tuko kwenye Huduma Center. Na that's why tunasema tumeenda online. Tunajua youth wanapenda kutumia mobiles, isn't it? Yes, so you can even register on your mobile.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. We have one last question.
Na la mwisho tu tukimalizia, kuna jambo ambalo limetajwa sana kuhusiana na hizi taasisi za kiufundi ambazo ukikumbuka kuna miaka ya nyuma ambapo kuna baadhi katika kaunti mbalimbali zilibadilishwa na kuwa vyuo vikuu. Sasa kuna mmoja hapa anauliza swali linalofungamana na actually ni kadhaa. Frida Ngugi, ningempatia hiyo nafasi lakini naambiwa muda haupo. Alikuwa anauliza kuna courses nyingi ambazo watu wanafanya ambazo hazi apply in real life situations. Naye Cliff anauliza why not restructure the university curriculum to fit what's available? If we are to import everything, don't train engineers, train technicians to maintain the machines and so forth.
Fair enough. I want to take those as the last comments from my panelists, and Professor, I'll start with you. Final comment.
Just because this gentleman who asked another question there. My parents made me get a degree because it looked nice to the village. I did a bachelor's degree in anthropology. I know there's no job today, but while I was in the university, I was known to be a very good events organizer. I'm the guy who knew how to get the guys to bring the gig. I knew how to get the DJs. So I've even been earning money out of it while still in the university. This guy comes with his qualifications to your app or your center. It reads bachelor's degree in anthropology. But the talent in this guy is more visible in events management. How would you deal with such a case? Because I keep telling you something about talent.
Yes.
And you keep talking to me about skills. Yes, you learned that. What is it that will enable you to know this guy with his inherent ability away from those skill set in those qualifications? That should inform you about what I'm talking about and how other countries were able to address it. Right now it's okay, lazima to survive. Siyo ni ukweli. Kila inapatikana ati kwa ni job gani tutadu sahi. Lakini for the currency and terms of policy, we are talking about 100 years to come. We cannot come back again 20, 30 years away from now until say again, there are no jobs, there are no jobs. Then we are not planning, we're not thinking.
Okay, important, and thank you for that. We'll take that as your final point. Ronnie, last words?
Yeah. I think this is an important conversation we are having. For a lot of young people, millions across the country, it should not just be a conversation. It needs to be something that translates into real livelihoods for them so that their dignity is also brought back. And I think as a country, you know, we sit in a good place because we have very well educated people. By the way, today, this cohort of young people, the millennials, only 6% of them are not educated. Okay, so we have a very educated lot. They are willing, they want to do it, they are skilled. So we just need to invest in them. We need to invest in ensuring there's equity in accessing those opportunities. We need to ensure that those who want to go into enterprise, we invest in building their capacity. So it's not just throwing money at them, but building their capacity to be entrepreneurs.
Okay, thank you. Madam DG.
Najua tulichukua muda kidogo for us to launch the authority. But we've been doing certain things, and those are the things that I'm now ninawaeleza. Kama hatukukuwa na website, tulikuwa tunafanya vitu manually. Hatukukuwa na the mobile app. Hatukukuwa na internship policy where we are talking about tunataka employers wachukue watu kwa internship. And that is the reason why tumechukua muda kidogo, but now we are here. I want us to continue having this conversation. Ndio pia Wakenya wajue ile kitu serikali imeweka, ndio sasa next time tukiwa na mheshimiwa hapa tutakuwa tunaongea maneno ingine, si ndio? But we have started rolling out zile vitu tulikuwa tuna develop behind the scenes.
And you say those 1 million jobs in 1 year is very achievable.
It is doable.
Okay.
It is doable.
All right, Senator,
yes.
before you, let me read an SMS from someone. Harun Washira, a farmer and entrepreneur from Kirinyaga, says, tell the MPs to require our government to buy Kenyan coffee instead of foreign coffee, local furniture instead of imports, and so forth. What's your last word, even as you ponder those words?
And I agree with him, is emphasizing what I've said. The talent is here, the capacity is here. We just need to be more serious with our laws. As a legislator, when you do a law, you don't have the authority to implement it, but to oversight its implementation. And what we will do, because I want to give some hope to young people, these things can be done, you know. We will support the authority, we will support the youth fund, we will support government, but we will also ask the hard questions about how our economy is structured so that we can be able to produce many more jobs. So there is hope out there, you know. Let's not be completely dismayed, but let's be able to ask the hard questions, because these young people are carrying the dreams of their societies and of their families. So, you know, the Buy Kenya policy was launched. What he's asking about, it was launched years ago. Kenyans are tired of launches. Kenyans are tired of data and statistics. Kenyans are tired of you telling them, oh, it's 30% or 10%. These young people want money in their pocket. They want a job to wake up to and go to. Men want to have dignity and women want to have opportunities in this country. And so we need to move from the high-sounding stories on TV and on, you know, to implementation on the ground. And that's where Kenyans are, and that's where we're moving to.
To the young man in Kenya, in Nairobi County, who doesn't know he'll get his meal tomorrow, how can you encourage that young person?
The one who doesn't know where to get a meal tomorrow?
Doesn't know where he's going to get his food from tomorrow. He's heard you talking about hope. We'll work on this, but it's like, Senator,
I mean, I don't know how to tell someone who won't get a meal tomorrow, because there are many, and I deal with them every day, you know. But just to keep hope alive, and we are doing what we must do, yeah. Every day, and you see, for us, and the reason why sometimes we might seem a bit upset or frustrated, is because come to my office, or even I give you my phone, look at the number of messages of lack of hope, dismay. People cannot feed their families. They have degrees, they have diplomas. I know so many touts in Nairobi who have degrees, people doing masters who are hawkers. Our friend there is studying a masters. So even us, we sometimes we get affected by it. But let me tell you, Francis Bacon once said, hope is a good breakfast but a bad supper. Until in this country we deal with corruption and all those issues they're seeing, that hope will turn into something very bad. So we must wake up. The government, we don't have time. We're not going to give more time to the executive to say, we're considering, we're thinking, we're trying. Tomorrow when we ask, we want us to be able to tell Kenyans we have done, this is where we are, this is how we have grown. Because that lack of hope will not stay for long enough.
Thank you, Senator. Mashirima, sijui kama wamejibu zile maswali zako za mwisho.
Nadhani wamejaribu, lakini maswali bado yako mengi. Ingekuwa tunayasoma yote tungekuwa hapa usiku mzima, lakini kuna jambo ambalo Senator Sakaja amesema ambalo linaonekana katika baadhi ya jumbe ambazo zimetumwa huko, kukosa matumaini. Kuna mmoja anajaribu kumtafuta ndio niseme jina lake, lakini nitasema kile tu alichosema ni kuwa ufisadi umezidi. Kwa hivyo wale ambao wanaiba pesa na kujenga nyumba ambazo hata wale mabwenyenye hawawezi kuishi, wajaribu hizo pesa, kama haziwezi kurudishwa waanzishe tu viwanda ambapo wataweza kuwaajiri vijana ambao hawana kazi. Naitwa Mashirima Kapombe, usiku mwema.
Asante sana Mashirima Kapombe. On behalf of the whole panel here, thank you so much to each of them. Professor Humphrey Obora, thank you for finding time to join us today. Ronnie Osumba, the chairperson of the Youth Fund, asante sana. Edith Okoki, the acting Director General, National Employment Authority, thank you. And of course, Nairobi Senator Sakaja Johnson, thank you for finding time. And to the audience here that have braved the cold to ask their questions to these leaders, we say thank you so much to each of you. They are clapping for you. Feel free to do that as well. And to our audience at home who will get to work late tomorrow, because you tuned in for a very important conversation, let's keep this discussion going. He promises that more will be done. They each promise that they will each fight for young people in their own ways. Let's keep them accountable. My name is Wahiga Mwaura. This has been the Town Hall at Greenhouse Mall on Gong Road. Have a good night.